Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. So in this video tutorial, what we're going to be doing is building on the last lesson, and you'll need your value chart for this, which is basically all your greens, and then you create your value scale. I'm going to be color mixing these ones here. So what we're going to do is assume you don't have these paints. We're going to learn how to color mix them. Now this per se doesn't mean it's an exercise where you have to learn how to color mix these specific colors, especially the festive green and yellow green light. It's just to show you how to approach this recipe style color mixing to make up something similar. These could be from a photograph. Okay, but I just use these because they're handy. When we look at, and we're going to go back to the same concept of how we approach color, we take a look at color and we ask ourselves, what's the hue? Okay, so it's green. Where does it sit in the color wheel? To the left or the right on the color wheel? Towards what color? For green, does it lean more towards blue or does it lean more towards yellow? That's one question. Then the next question is, what's the value like? How dark or how light is it? When you mix your color, do you then compare, okay, is my mix lighter or darker? Then you make an adjustment. And then from there you can say, well, how intense is it? Is it duller or lighter? You make up your mix, you compare. Is my mix is my mix more intense or duller than what I'm trying to match? You make an adjustment. And you keep going through that. And even the masters were doing that, constantly analyzing and analyzing and analyzing color, because you can't just mix the perfect color right off the bat. You mix, you analyze, you apply, you analyze, you mix, you apply. You're always adjusting, depending on how fine and how realistic you're painting. You're going to be doing more of that. If you're more not saying into abstract, but if you're not so precise with your color, you don't really care about matching 100%, which is my style, you'll be doing less of the analyzing. I usually go through maybe 3 or 4 cycles of analyzing something brand new, but like for these types of colors, if you use sap green a lot, you'll eventually be able to mix it within one or two tries. Okay, now over here, I sprayed my paint and the ink dissolved. What I have here is I have the colors that are in the pigments in the actual paint. So for example, in yellow green light, there's PG36, PY83, PW6. So I put those out here. Chrome green hue is PBR7BU, PBR7RS, and PG36. Well, PG36 is already out there, so I put the other ones out here as well. Okay, so let me just go through those colors. And I also made swatches of those colors I put on here, and then with some white. So PY73, which is in the Decor Tradition Sap Green, is Hansa Yellow Medium. This color I don't use a lot. Derelid Yellow, which is PY83, which is in the Decor Media Fluid Acrylics Yellow Green Light. And that's it. Okay, so that's this color here. I actually should put these down so you can see what I'm using. And I'm using some of my old paints before going to the new package stuff. Okay, so that we have PY83, which is Derelid Yellow. Then we have PR101, which is in Decor Tradition Sap Green. Now the PR101, I only have transparent red iron oxide. It could also be English red oxide. It could be that one. I don't know. But all I have is transparent red iron oxide, so I'm going to see if that'll work. Carbon Black, which is in PBK7, which is in the Decor Media Fluid Acrylic Sap Green, which is this one here. And let's see, I'll put those over there. I don't need those anymore. What else? Then we have our phthalo colors. Okay, PG36, which is phthalo green yellow, and PG7, which is phthalo green blue. Then we have the neutrals. Okay, so the neutrals in the Decor Chrome Green Hue is PBR7BU, so that's burnt umber, PBR7RS, which is raw sienna. So raw sienna and burnt umber. And then we have the Decor Media Fluid Acrylics PBR7. That's all it's listed, PBR7. Which PBR7? raw sienna, burnt umber, and raw umber are all PBR7. Which one? I don't know. Now, I'm not going to go through an in-depth analysis on the earth tones because that's coming up in a future lesson. So I'm basically going to just do quick matches, but I'm not going to go through the properties of the paint. Then here we have a whole smack dab of titanium white. Alrighty. Now I'm going to do just to give you an idea how to mix these, because what I want you to do is approach it the same way. You're going to ask yourself the questions. So let's first go through it. Now the festive green for Deco Art Americana, this one here, and the fluid acrylics yellow green light, they're very similar. They're very similar, so I'm going to basically approach those as one, just to save some time. What color is it? Green. Of course it's green. Well, because I don't have the pigment number in this one, I have it in this one. PG36, PY83, and PW6. So PG36 is the base, and then PY83 is next, and PW6 is next. If you start with PG36, you're going to have to add so much white to it because it is so strong. So what we're going to do is get another palette. Sorry about that. Get another palette. What we're going to do is we're going to take our PG36 here. I'm going to put it right up here. Going to get rid of that stuff out of my brush. Okay, because I'm going to use this for mixing. And then the next color is going to rinse my brush. The next color that's in there is PY83, okay, which is Derelict Yellow. I don't use this a lot. I very rarely use this, so, you know, you can... I would just go over to, you know, Handsy Yellow Medium, which, you know what, let's try it. So I've got my phthalo green here. Let's go right in here. Okay. So now when I look at this, and I'm going to compare, I can compare with this one too. You know, you compare with those. It's pretty close, eh? It's pretty close. So depending again, do you want it to be, you know, 100%, or did you want something close? Should have cut these into little swatches. When I look at this right off the bat, okay, so I'm going to ask myself the questions. Okay, it's green. Is it lighter or darker? It's a little bit light, which is easy to fix. I just add more green and more yellow. Is it more intense or is it dull? It's a little bit more intense, just a little bit. Where does it lead on the color wheel? It's a little bit too yellow. And one thing we didn't really cover, because in color mixing for this purpose we didn't cover it, but for this one here, when I look at the opacity, this is much more opaque, because I can see here what these are like, and I can see what this one's like. So let's go back. So that was just a random mix. The proper way to approach this, because we have phthalo green and it's such a strong color, I'm going to take just a smidgen of that, enough to mix. Then we're going to take about equal parts of yellow, and we're going to start with that. So the easy question to ask, the easy question is, I see a lot of yellow in here. So where does it lead on the color wheel? Towards yellow or towards blue? That way too much yellow. So let's go back and add a little bit more green to it. Okay, that's pretty good. So, and squinting my eyes and looking at this and looking at this, is it lighter or darker? It's pretty well the same. You have to squint your eyes. You have to fuzz out all this transparency in here, so squint your eyes, and it's pretty good. Where does it lean on the color wheel? Well, when you're comparing this to this, it looks pretty good now, but keeping in mind, this has white in it. So you have to be careful with that. The intensity is pretty well the same. So now let's just pick up a little bit of white. I'm going to go on the side. Squinting my eyes, and yeah, I think I've got it. I think I've got it. There we go. A way to test, we're just going to put that. I didn't make enough. Okay, so let's add a little bit more. And this is something you're going to have to learn to do as well. So you will run out of paint, so what do you do? Well, I mixed it up. Oh, this is a little bit darker than this. Yeah, so you're going to have to add a little bit of white. There we go. That's pretty good. So let's move this over. And keeping in mind, oh, we're out of paint again, jeepers creepers. And keeping in mind that when you're mixing, I had a bit of water in my brush when I did those. This one here, my brush is pretty dry. See, this one here, I have so much more control because I don't know how much moisture they're putting into these mixtures here as well. So this is craft paint, this is professional paint. This is the fluid acrylics, so they're obviously, I would say, waterier. They're a lot thinner in consistency. This is the Traditions, which is thicker in consistency. Okay, so let's say now, well, Gisele, I really like that color, but I don't have Derelid Yellow. The core colors, Derelid Yellow is not in my core pigments. It's not a core color. It's just there. What's in my core palette is Hansa Yellow Medium and Hansa Yellow Light, and Hansa Yellow is in the extended palette. What if we tried mixing the same thing now with Hansa Yellow Medium? Well, keeping in mind, where does Hansa Yellow Medium lean on the color wheel? So we're getting into more advanced lessons now. You should know this. Where does Hansa Yellow Medium lean on the color wheel? What's that going to do to the green mixture? Should we use Hansa Yellow Light when trying to make this? What do you think? Well, let's try. So I've got my phthalo green there. I'm going to take some Hansa Yellow Medium. Take my green, my yellow. Well, I can see definitely there's a lot more yellow in that, right? Let's pick up a little bit more green. Not too bad. Let's pick up a speck of white. Not too much. It's really bright. It's really bright. So keep analyzing the colors. Well, the reason why I chose Hansa Yellow Medium for this, first of all, it's in my mixture for something else. Derelid Yellow, the actual paint in Yellow Green Light, is a yellow that really leans towards orange, like a lot. So I'm going from this to this. I will never get an exact match. What can I do with this? I can take Hansa Yellow Medium and I can add a little bit of orange to it. Okay, so let's do that. Let's take a little bit of orange. And then you can go, well, what if I just want to add red? And this is where you're going to have to experiment on what you want to do. I'm only going to show this level of detail on this particular one here. So let's add a little bit of orange. We just want to neutralize it a little bit. Look at that. Look at that. I'm going to put it right on top. What do you think? I think we've got the mix right there. There you go. Running out of paint. All I had to do was add a little bit of orange to it. That's all I had to do. Just add a little bit of orange to it. Now, when you're doing your charts as well, the more layers of paint you put on top and on top, it's going to become more and more opaque. So you're never going to get to replicate that. But that's comparing to these two. That's pretty close. So that's how I would use that mixture. Now, what you're going to do is if you make this mixture, make a note of what you used. Now, don't go into writing down a tablespoon of this, a teaspoon of that. Just write down, I put down a phthalo green yellow, and then I would go plus Hansa Yellow Medium because I had to add a little bit more Hansa Yellow. No, phthalo green yellow plus, then Hansa Yellow Medium, and then a T for touch of orange. When you go plus, that means more of a color. Okay. Right, so let's fold that over and let's put that over here. All right, so the next one we're going to work on is Chrome Green Hue. Oh, and I forgot to give you a fair warning. These videos are going to be, this video is going to be much longer because there's a lot of mixing in here. All right, Chrome Green Hue, PBR7BU, PBR7RS, and PG36. These are the first colors on there, so I'm going to say, well, that's the first one we should be going with. So we need PBR7BU, Burnt Umber. And if you're working with oils, you'll notice that the umbers, Sienna's numbers, they dry really, really fast. Even in the acrylics, all my burnt umbers were dried out. And we need some raw sienna. And we need PG36, which is phthalo green yellow. Alrighty. So we got those colors. So now what we're doing is we're mixing to that one. Right there. You should be able to see that, right? Okay. All right. So we're going to take the burnt umber. I always start off with roughly equal parts. And what this is going to be doing is neutralizing. Now, without going into all the properties of the paint, there's going to be a video coming up where we go over all the earth tones, and that's where you'll be able to understand better. Now, in the dirty brush, I'm going to pick up some phthalo green, just a speck, and I'm going to mix that. All right, so first of all, this looks much thinner. The transparency looks much more transparent. Do I have too much water in my brush? I don't know. One way to get around that is when you paint your swatch, you do one coat and then you do another coat. So with this here, I'm looking at this. Okay, well, let's ask the questions. The hue, yeah, green. Where does it lean on the color wheel? More blue or more yellow? You know what? I think I need to do another little experiment. Oh, might be able to reach this. Let me get some scrap paper. And I'm just going to fold this over. So all your scrap cardstock and all that stuff, hang on to it. It has to be white. Okay, what you're going to do is take that and you're going to put it here. You're going to put it against it. Well, by Jove, look at that. Values bang on. Intensities bang on. Very different looking at it here over here, because this is more transparent. The white of the palette paper is showing through, but as soon as I put it on scrap paper like this, it's porous, it's absorbing the paint. Now watch, if I put another layer of color, look at that. Voila, it's ready to go. So I would write down in my journal the burnt umber, raw umber, and then a T for phthalo green, the phthalo green yellow. And of course, I didn't make up enough paint. So let's see, what do we do? We're going to right in here, equal parts, and a little bit of green. Mix, mix, mix. Oh no, what do I do? This doesn't look anything like what I mixed before. Ask yourself the questions. What's the hue? That's brown. That's brown. How do I know? Take a little bit of white. Add, see the true underlying color? Yeah. That looks like raw umber. Looks like raw umber. Well, there we go. We're going to cover that later. All right, so I need to add more green to that. That's a for sure. I need to add more green. And you know how I added white to this? Make sure you rinse everything out of your brush. That is key. There we go. Okay, so now we're back on track. Oh God, I am so cheap when it comes to mixing color because I do so much color mixing lessons. I don't want to waste the paint. There we go. Now, one thing I didn't do is let's add white to it. It looks the same, right? Well, if we add white, I have to wait for that to dry, but that's pretty close. There's a bit more white in this one, so well, okay, let's add a little bit more white. There we go. Just add a bit more white. There we are. All right, so you see how I did that there? What's next? Sap green. So these were pretty complicated mixes. As we go down, they become a little bit easier. Where, you know, this one was easy because we knew the paints. This one was easy. Well, this one was easy because we knew the paint, but the challenge was, well, what if I don't have PY83? This one here, we have burnt umber, we have raw sienna, we have phthalo green yellow. The next one, now, the Decor Tradition Sap Green, PG36, PR101, PY73. PG36 is phthalo green yellow. PY73 is Handsome Yellow Medium. PR101, I don't know. There's so many different pigments under PR101. I have no idea. What I do have in PR101 is transparent red iron oxide. So let's try that. So we need to pull out some phthalo green yellow. And we need some Handsome Yellow Medium. And I roughly bring out equal parts of everything. And then we have the transparent red iron oxide. Just to let you know that transparent red iron oxide, if you're into mixed media, that's a color you need to have in your arsenal. All right, so let's see. First ingredient is PG36, so that's the base color. Then we have PY73. Well, this is pretty dark. I could take PY73 and then add PG36 to it. Normally you add dark to light. That way you're not having to make up so much paint. But this one here, because PG36 is the primary color and it is dark, I'm going to go straight with PG36. Then I'm going to pull in roughly an equal amount of Handsome Yellow Medium. Well, we have a really, really bright green. That's what we have, which is almost the same as this. We have a bright green. So what hue is it? Green. Is it lighter or darker? Lighter. Is it more intense or more dull? It's more intense. Which way does it lean on the color wheel? Is it leaning more towards the yellow or more towards the blue? This is much more yellow than it should be. Now, it's much more intense, so what do we need to do? We need to neutralize it. Well, the neutralizing color is PR101. So let's see if transparent red iron oxide is the color. Remember your color wheel? What's opposite of green? Red. PR101, pigment red. So let's see. Wow, this looks pretty dark now. That, no, that's still a little bit more intense. Let's add a little bit more of this. A little too intense. And you're going to be asking yourself those questions each and every time. Okay, this comparison chart isn't working. Well, that looks pretty good. But what's the way to test a true to test a true underlying color? Add white. Okay, so now where I'm comparing these two now. Well, obviously not enough white. And I also think it's still too intense. I think we need more of the transparent red iron oxide. So let me just add more white to this. And this is where you can really see it. I see way too much yellow in there. So what do? I'm going to rinse my brush. Now I can actually do the adjustments right in here, because now what I'm doing, matching these two, they look the same. But now what I'm doing is I'm matching this here, these two here. When I compare this to this has too much yellow in it. So let's go to add a bit more green and a lot more of the transparent red iron oxide. I stole from some of this mixture here. Add a bit more white. Oh, there we go. There we go. So, one thing also to keep in mind, when you're color matching pigments and what we're doing now, you are never going to get it exact because they use proprietary formulas. That's why their colors are so amazing. These proprietary colors, you're never going to know exactly to the milliliter how much of one pigment is versus another pigment versus another pigment. So we're using our eyes to match as close as possible. So I put this down and I'm happy with it. So don't get hung up on making it an exact match. I'm seeing as it's drying, it's a little bit darker. So what does that mean? I have to add more white. So the big lesson in this one is that was a lot more of the PR 101. And if in fact, the PR 101 was supposed to be, let's say, English red iron oxide, English red iron oxide is opaque. Transparent red iron oxide is transparent. So I may not have had to add so much red if I was using English red iron oxide because it's opaque and it'll be a lot stronger. Because transparent red iron oxide is more transparent, I have to add a lot more to try to build up the strength of that red. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, pop it into the question box below and we'll go a little bit further on that. So now we're going to be doing the same sap green. We're using the Decor Media Fluid Acrylics, completely different mixture, and I don't have the yellow that is in their mix. They've got PY 151, PBR 7. It's some neutral. I have no idea what it is. PG 36. Again, it's phthalo green yellow, and PBK 7, which is black. So, what if you come across something and you have to have that color? To me, there's absolutely nothing in this world that would actually have to have that color unless you're painting some, I don't know, rich person that is wearing certain green gems and it's a specific green gem and the green gem is that color. And you have to, you have to. I would just basically, no. It's not the color, right? That's not the color I see. But anyways, I digress. There's really no need to actually match it exact. And you won't because you don't know what measurements the paint company used. So what yellow? You can go online, you can look up to see what PY 151 is and try to match the closest yellow. I'm just going to go with what I have on my palette, PY 73. PBR 7, which neutral, I've got a whole bunch. I'm going to stick with the burnt umber, and because burnt umber is close to PR 101, burnt sienna, which is a reddish brown, and then black. So we need phthalo green yellow. My Fitbit just buzzed. It's time to do your 250 steps. I try to walk 10,000 steps a day. I'm already at, I think, 9,500, and it's only, what time is it? It's only, well, I only have 68 steps left to do. It's only 10:50. PBR 7. I'm going to go with burnt sienna. Where's burnt sienna? We'll try this one. I don't know if that's the right one. Let's see. Yellow. I don't know which yellow. We're going to go with Hansa Yellow Medium. My other option is Hansa Yellow Light or even just Hansa Yellow. And we also need black. All right. So what are we going to do? We're going to take, what color is it? Well, it's green, obviously. It's green. The green is the third on the list. So it looks like from what I can gather that the primary mixture is a yellow and some type of neutral. Because it's already dark, I'm going to go straight to phthalo green. Now with that, I'm looking, okay, is it the questions? Is it lighter or darker? Closing my eyes. Value-wise, if I close my eyes, this is they're about the same. The intensity, is it duller or brighter? This is really, really bright. Okay, so what do? Well, we know that red is opposite in the color wheel, and we know that we need to use some type of neutral. It's PBR7. So let's go with burnt sienna. And I don't know if this is the right one, but we're going to try this one. Okay. It leans way too far in the color wheel to green. And I can tell this one here is much duller. So that's where probably the black's going to come in. So I'm going to take a little bit of black, dull that down a little bit. And we need to add a bit of yellow. Not even close. Not even close. Let's add some white to that. This is the hardest one to color mix, by the way. Whoa. Okay. When we're mixing something like this, that's going to be the most challenging because we don't know what neutral it is and we don't know what yellow it is. The only things that we do know is PG36 and PBK7. That's all we know. We can try making this mix. We can go with raw sienna, we can go with burnt sienna, we can go with burnt umber, we can go with raw umber. What yellow? Well, we don't know what this is, so we're never going to get an exact match. But do we use Hansa yellow medium, Hansa yellow light? There are so many variables. So now what we got to do is, because we have previous experience working with yellow, we know that yellow only leans one of two ways, towards orange or towards green. Okay? Looking at this, this is really, 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 really bright. We're looking to get something like this. I need to dull this down. What's the better way to dull this down? We can dull it down with black, but black's going to make it darker. I'm going to go right into the burnt sienna and see if that'll do it for me. Now we're matching to this, not to this. Let's get a bit more white. Isn't that interesting? All we had to do was neutralize it a little bit more. Still a little bit dark, so what do? Well, I can add more white to it. Just take my dirty brush. There we go. So now when mixing the color, what I would write down is, I would write down, let's see, PG36. I would write down burnt sienna plus, like, because there was a lot of burnt sienna. Then I would write PY73, or Hansa yellow medium. You can write like PGY, BS for burnt sienna, HYM for Hansa yellow medium, and then a T for carbon black. We didn't use a lot of carbon black. I think that was just to make it a little bit darker, but you need the white for the opacity. So I'm pretty happy. So we're comparing these two right here. Okay. This one, I'd like to say it's easy peasy, but I have no idea what neutral it is. What neutral is that? Let's try this a different way. PG7 we know is phthalo green blue. That's easy. That's a green that leans towards blue. But it's really, really dark. It's also going in the garbage because it's dried out in my bottle. And I don't need it anymore. This Viridium is typically a really, really bright blue-green that's neutralized a little bit. Okay, so it's bright blue-green, but it's darker and it's a bit neutral. This is not pure. This should be Viridian hue. The pure Viridian is what I use is in oils. But because this is so dark, and if you look at your palette of colors, I'm thinking, well, if I had to choose a neutral, PBR7, with it being this dark, and we know that this is phthalo green blue, okay, and we're trying to match to that. If I add raw sienna, it's going to make it lighter. If I add burnt sienna, well, I don't know, might make it a little bit darker. Could add burnt umber, or I can add raw umber. Well, because we haven't covered it yet like this, let's give it a shot. So I'm going to start off with raw sienna. on my dirty brush. It made it lighter. But look at the green that it made. Because raw sienna leans towards yellow on the color wheel. Although it's a neutral, it has more yellow in it. So that's why it lightened it up here. So that's not a good choice. Burnt sienna. Could this be the color? And we already went through this exercise over here. But could this be the color? Well, it's hard to see now because of the true underlying color. So because we can't see the true underlying color. So what we need to do is we mix this up. We're going to try to mix to that. So let's take a little bit of white. Not even close, but oh my God, look at that color. Ooh, I like that. Well, this is a little bit brighter. Because burnt sienna has red tones under it, I think it might be neutralizing it just a little too much. I think it might be neutralizing just a little too much. Not too much, though. Not too much, I don't think. What do you think? Maybe that's the right color. Okay, well, that's a choice. Well, let's just keep going. Burnt umber. Again, very hard to see because we can't see the true underlying color. Let's add some white. Huh. Interesting. Let me just blot a bit off there. We need more white. Okay, I'm thinking the burnt umber dulled it a little too much. So between burnt umber and burnt sienna, I'm still thinking the burnt sienna is the choice. Let's try raw umber. Now raw umber is a neutral that leans a little bit towards green. Add some white. Ooh, that's really bright. Let's put a bit more burnt umber in there. And now we can mix from there. Huh. Nope, I still think burnt sienna is my choice. All right, so what I'm going to do is that's the color there. Did I pick up the right one? Because I'm looking at that now and thinking, wait a minute, no, I'm liking the burnt umber one. Don't forget, I'm putting it on this. I'm going to here. Looks fine, but as soon as you put the color down, it starts to dry. Ah, okay. I'm kind of thinking it's burnt. It's a raw umber. Look at that. I think that's the color I'm going to go with. It may need a little bit more white. Just a little bit more white. Oh, it's already dry. And when you put your mixture down, don't forget, let your paints dry before making final adjustments, because it dries a little bit darker. I'm liking that one. But now as it's drying, does it look like it's getting a little bit more dull? I could have added a little bit more phthalo green to that. And I think that would have been okay. All right. And that covers off all the mixtures. So see how much work it is to get your mixtures done? And I do this course every single year, and it's always different. So one thing that everything's backwards on my monitor. So one thing that we need to understand is that When you're doing your color mixing, don't even try to make it 100% because you won't. When you're trying to match to a paint manufacturer, we don't know what precise measurements they use. So we're going to use our eyes. We're all different the way we see things. And if you're colorblind, that's even a bigger challenge for you. Then you have to kind of work your way around that using whatever method you've been using for color mixing. So the one for me that gave me the biggest challenge, I think, is this one here. The fluid acrylic sap green, because I didn't know what brown and I didn't know what yellow it was. I'm looking at this now and I think, no, I don't think raw umber is the right one. I'm still thinking going back to the burnt sienna. Yeah, I'm thinking the burnt sienna. And because now that it's dry, I'm thinking it should have been, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsie. I'm thinking it should have been this one. I'm thinking it should have been that one. This leans way a bit too much towards the blue, this one here. So it wasn't quite neutral enough. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you're going to, and if you don't, you may not have the colors that I'm using, so you're going to take your greens on another chart and you put your greens up on top. Then you're going to add a little bit of white to create the underlying color. And then what you're going to do is take the paints that are in the mixtures, if you have them. Okay, if you have the mixtures that make up those paints that you have, that's fine. Write them down, pull them out, and put a swatch here with white. If you don't have the paints that are in these mixtures here, and if you don't know what the colors are, well, there's your challenge. You're going to have to try to come up with something similar using the colors you have. Now, I don't know if you want to basically wait until we go over the neutrals, if you need some of the neutrals, but like with like yellow, green, light, the sap green needed PR 101. And the reason why I'm thinking the sap green with the fluid acrylics, the PBR, so you burnt sienna, because burnt sienna and PR 101 for transparent red iron oxide are very similar. So you should have a yellow, you should have a black. Phthalo green is a core color. If you don't have phthalo green, you can try mixing the colors using whatever you have. But with everything we've done, you really only need two greens, phthalo green blue and phthalo green yellow. That's really all you need. Now, what if you, let's say you only had $5 and you could only buy one. Which one would you buy? If you're primarily doing landscapes, I would say get phthalo green yellow. But if you're doing seascapes and I think primarily doing seascapes, then I would go with phthalo green blue, because that color works really well for turquoise and teal. But they're relatively inexpensive, so if you can, you should have both phthalo green blue and phthalo green yellow. All right, so create a chart using whatever colors you have, and you're going to try to match your colors as best you can. This is not going to be a quick exercise. It's going to take you, well, you saw how long it's taking me to do it. But take your time doing this and make notes. Oh, please, for the love of God, make notes, because that's what you're going to put all this in your binder, and that's how you're going to refer back to it in the later lessons. Okay, so you're going to make your notes, and then what to do, if you're watching this from YouTube, you're going to click one of the links in the description below to go to the community to ask your questions and to post pictures of what you've done. If you're watching this from the community or the Facebook page or the Facebook group, you're going to post your picture and ask your questions in the comments below. Okay, and when you post, if you're posting a picture, please put some text there as to what you're looking for. Don't just post pictures and just leave it blank. Post your picture, then put some, either an insight or trouble that you had, or something you found easy, or something that gave you an aha moment, or something that you'd like feedback on. So when people just post pictures and that's it, I come to and say, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you need help with? Or are you just posting a picture for the sake of posting a picture? So let me know exactly what you're looking for in the form of feedback. And that helps not just me, but helps all of us comment on your picture more constructively. Okie dokie, teacher says. All right, so I'm looking forward to seeing your chart, and until I see you in the next lesson, stay inspired.